Hello, this is @TeachSmith, and today I wanted to talk about the importance of kings in Macbeth. I was inspired to do this video by several colleagues on Twitter. Unfortunately, I can't remember them all. There were so many fantastic contributions. But the possibility that kingship or kings would come up as an exam question in the summer. I'm slightly skeptical. However, this is a fascinating topic, so I did want to talk about it. So top tip. Shakespeare is exploring what it means to be a king over the course of Macbeth. That's how I think you need to frame the essay. What does it mean to be a king? What does it mean to exercise such amazing, incredible power? By the end of the play, Scotland has a good king, Malcolm, supported by England. It kind of reflects the situation in England at the time. You have King James, who has united Scotland and England, and Shakespeare is at least hoping that he will be a good king, and perhaps also flattering King James as well. And a way I was thinking about this question is, it's almost as if Malcolm has gone through some trials. He's gone through trials necessary for him to make a good king. He's learned lessons, and kingship and power has been explored, and he's witnessed a lot of it. And has he learned lessons and matured to become a good king? Is Shakespeare almost sort of appealing to King James to make sure that he does become a good king, or that he is a good king? That's also a possibility. A fantastic tweet here from Andy Codextrous on Twitter, just to make sure we're using these kind of verbs, these authorial intent, because from my literature training, from my excellent colleagues and managers at Reigate School, it's all about the argument in literature, and authorial intent is so important. So Shakespeare challenges, warns, dismantles, complicates, etc. I would say that Shakespeare perhaps dismantles ideas of kingship, or deconstructs them, or complicates them. Explores is always there, but if you can use other verbs like these, then that's fantastic as well. But that's what I'm always going to talk about, is what Shakespeare is trying to explore about kingship in Macbeth. Don't just talk about the plot. So Shakespeare explores and deconstructs kingship. Shakespeare explores what it means to be a king. There are 4 kings in the play. Duncan at the start, then Macbeth. Edward is king in England, and then of course Malcolm. But we also learn lessons from Mcduff and Donald Bane. And the other reason why I think you should try and persevere with this video if you can is because this can help you with lots of different characters. Okay, Macbeth always can come up as a character. Macduff perhaps can come up as a character. I'm thinking of doing a different video on him. And then of course the ideas of power itself. So there's symbols of kingship. Now, I might be wrong on this, so I'm happy to be corrected. But if you look at this picture, you've got a crown on his head, the long sort of staff is the scepter, and then of course the sword. Now, for me, these symbols are important. The crown represents the divine right. He has the right to rule. This king has the right to rule. He is a worthy king. The scepter is about justice and good governance, fairness, balance, justice, doing the right thing. The sword is about power and having a military mind. Can you defend your country? Can you defend your country from foreign enemies? Can you defend your country from domestic enemies? Are you a good tactician? Do you make the people feel safe through your military might and capability? My theory is that Shakespeare demonstrates the importance of having all 3 of these elements. That's my kind of key idea. Shakespeare demonstrates it, or explores it, or perhaps you could say challenges it. Unfortunately, no one else, not many people get the Captain Planet reference, but it's about these powers combined. And if you did get that, fantastic. So Duncan has the right to rule. He is the just and right king. He should be the ruler of Scotland. He should be the king. He also has justice and good governance. He is fair. He is kind. He is benevolent. He does the right thing. However, he is missing the sword element. He's missing power, and he's missing a military mind. So Duncan has the right to rule and has been a just ruler, but lacks the power and strategy. Hence he is vulnerable at the start of the play and blindly trusts his thanes. So Shakespeare is exploring the importance of having all 3, And remember, Duncan is invaded at the start of the play, and Scotland, well, Scotland is invaded because Duncan is seen as maybe perhaps a bit vulnerable and a bit weak and a bit naive. And not only do foreign invaders invade Scotland, but Scottish thanes turn traitor. The Thane of Cawdor and others turn traitor because they don't believe in Duncan's power. They don't believe in Duncan's military might. So fantastic tweets here, a couple of tweets here from Christina Allen. So King Duncan is perhaps not the 100% ideal king. And also, the line of succession wasn't necessarily the firstborn son. And I don't want you to worry about this too much, unless you're perhaps really pushing for the higher grades. But the practice of tanistry was where you chose from a pool of suitable candidates. So really, was Duncan right to pick Malcolm? Should he not have actually picked Macbeth? Because if he'd picked Macbeth as a powerful, strong leader, would everything have been better? We wouldn't have had an exciting and fun and bloody play, but would things have been better? So that's just something to think about. Again, Duncan's lack of a tactical mind, going with his emotions. Maybe Malcolm was the emotional choice as his son. He loved his son, so he wanted him to be king, rather than Macbeth, which would have been the tactical choice, as Macbeth was the most powerful force in Scotland at that time. Without him, it was quite likely that Scotland would have lost at the start of the play. So here's some quotations to back up what I'm saying. Duncan, there's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. He was a gentleman on whom I built an absolute trust. So Duncan can't figure people out. Okay, Duncan is not Machiavellian. He can't work out people's motivations. He can't reveal to himself what other people are thinking. He absolutely trusts. He had absolutely trusted the first Thane of Cawdor, who's then executed. But then he absolutely trusts the new Thane of Cawdor, Macbeth, who then kills him. And then Macbeth talking about how perhaps Duncan is perhaps too nice. This Duncan hath borne his faculties so meek, hath been so clear in his great office, that his virtues will plead like angels trumpet-tongued. That's very nice, but perhaps it's too gentle. There's no fear there. As Machiavelli, the prince, said, it's better to be feared than to be loved. I'm obviously deeply paraphrasing there. And I'm not necessarily saying that's true, but there needs to be some fear. Your foreign enemies and your potential domestic enemies need to have a little bit of fear of the consequences of betraying you. So Macbeth, he only has the sword, in my opinion. He has power, he has military tactics, proven at the start of the play, but he does not have the divine right. He doesn't have it. He could have done. Duncan could have picked him, named him, chosen him, but Duncan didn't choose him. He chose Malcolm. So Macbeth does not have the divine right. He does not have it. And he also does not have justice or good governance. His rule is awful. It's awful. It's full of death. It's chaotic. It's terrible. Malcolm, by the end, I believe, has all three of these things. At the very beginning of the play, though, Malcolm has none of these things. He's named by Duncan, which again might have even been shocking or surprising for the time. So he's been named, but then he has to learn the other two. I think that he doesn't have those other two elements. And even if he does, they're not developed enough. They're not mature enough. And through Malcolm learning these lessons, he becomes a good king by the end. And the lessons are there for us also as an audience. That's the key thing. Shakespeare portrays, illustrates, plays out these lessons so the audience can explore what makes a good king. So that by the end, Malcolm has divine right, ideas of how to be just and have good governance, and power and military might. So Shakespeare has Malcolm learn from the examples of others. Duncan was too weak. Macbeth is a tyrant. Donald Bane demonstrates healthy suspicion. There's daggers in men's smiles. Okay, that was such a fantastic quotation. Donald Bane is trying to teach Malcolm, teach his older brother, how to have healthy suspicion, how to be Machiavellian. Mcduff teaches us, or demonstrates, healthy masculinity, and Shakespeare demonstrates this healthy masculinity through Macduff, or Shakespeare explores healthy masculinity through Macduff. and must feel it like a man. So when Macduff learns the tragic news about his family, he doesn't just immediately go out and seek violence. He also feels it like a man. He shows his feelings. He demonstrates his feelings. Quite a progressive idea. And Edward, the King of England, who I think perhaps we don't talk about enough, Edward embodies piety and faith. Such sanctity hath heaven given his hand. So it's said that even a touch of Edward's hand, the King of England, he's so pious, he's so faithful, he's so loved by God that a touch of his hand could have healing powers. In the description box, I'll put an excellent resource from Douglas Wise on Twitter, a sheet about kingship. I'll also put a link to the questions that I found, of which this is one. And I hope that this video has been helpful. If it has, please do like and subscribe. Thank you very much.